them. Casey Cares is the intersection of the nonprofit and profit communities, making Kansas City a better place to live, work, and play. This Casey Cares segment is brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation, www.kaufman.org. I'm Ruth Bombigas. The Kansas City region is filled with more than 12,000 nonprofits trying to help people in many ways, including youth, the key to our future. City Year is one of the nonprofits working with youth right here in Kansas City. It's a national organization focused on educational equity. City Year opened a local chapter here in 2015 and tapped Jeff Shafer to lead the charge. Jeff joins me to share the work of City Year and the difference it's making for Kansas City students, and I would say young adults as well. Jeff, it's so great to have you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
And the last time we encountered each other was on a football field during the NFL draft.
City Year was grateful to have the opportunity to partner with the NFL and doing some really cool activations with the top prospects and, doing some activities and running around the field with the students at Central Middle School. So that was a blast. Yeah, that was a good spot to first connect. That's for sure.
Let's share with our audience, for folks who maybe have not heard about City Year or don't completely understand what your model and your mission is. Share that with us, will you?
Yeah. So as you spoke to, we are education equity focused nonprofit that places full-time mentors and tutors in schools to keep kids on track to graduate. All of our mentors and tutors are between the ages of 18 to 25. So we really lean into what we call a near peer model. So they're young enough to be relatable, old enough to still be an authority figure, and to make a really big difference in the schools. And so they're serving as in the category of which we call student success coach. And so what this means is it's a full-time support, enhancing students' academics while also interweaving social emotional learning. So that's a big component of it as well. And we're really fortunate to have a really strong relationship with Kansas City Public Schools. Currently, we're in 6 KCPS schools: Whittier Elementary, Central Middle, Central High School, Northeast Middle, Northeast High, and East High School. And so I mentioned 18 to 25. The average age that one of our AmeriCorps members joined City Year for a year of service is 22. Most folks do this right after college before the next career step. But we do have folks that do it right out of high school or after completing some college as well.
So many questions.
Yeah, let's get into it.
So you have how many City Year volunteers? Mm-hmm. And we should ask, are they paid or is it volunteer work?
So it's volunteer work, but they do get a living stipend. And they also get, food stamps and other benefits, professional development, in addition to a Siegel Education Award, which is above $6,000 now. So you receive that at the end of your service year, and that can go to paying back student loans or to help further your education. So we really pride ourselves in making sure that this is an experience where you sign up to make a difference in someone's life, but you can't go through without changing you yourself as well. And we're doing what we can to harness that energy of the youth and, help them out professionally and career-wise and leadership development so they can, take these values and take what they've learned and take this impact and move that into their next career step as they are developing as young people as well. So we have 66 AmeriCorps member slots. And so I say that because we're still recruiting young folks to do this program. Right now, we have about 30 young people that are serving as City Year AmeriCorps members as our mentors and tutors in schools.
Tell us what one of your team does. Give us an example of a day as a City Year AmeriCorps volunteer.
Yeah, and I can do that, Ruth, because not only do I get to see in action, but even though I'm the executive director now, I started in the organization on the front line, so to speak, as one of our City Year AmeriCorps members. Although at the time it was in Chicago, City Year Chicago, before City Year Kansas City started. But yeah, just to give you, a feel for the day. We're there full time. So that's before the first morning bell all the way into the last after school program. In the morning, what's typical is you might see our City Year teams in the schools, outside the school, the main entrance, cheering on our students and making sure that they have a positive touch point as soon as they get into the building. We call that morning greeting. What this also allows us to do is have check-ins with our students. If you see a kid that's coming in and seems a little bit off, well, we can check in right away. This also helps with our attendance initiative, in that if we see a student is not there, then we'll call home right away. Sometimes we get the parent on the phone and, find out what's going on, or they're getting barriers of getting into the school, information that we can then pass on to the counselor or social worker. Sometimes you get the kid on the phone yourself, and it's a get your butt to school type of situation, right? And then we move on to our academic work. So our City Year AmeriCorps members are all paired in a class with a teacher for the full day. And so they're primarily focused on academic support in English and math. And that's because our service model is based on a research from Johns Hopkins University that found that the student is in school and on track in attendance, behavior, and course performance specific to English and math by the 10th grade. They're 4 times more likely to graduate. So we really lean into those areas. And so that could be supporting the teacher in whole class support, monitoring the students, walking around, checking in with kids as the teacher is lecturing. But what we also do is differentiated instruction. So having that extra City Year AmeriCorps member in there allows the teacher to focus on maybe a group of students that are really far behind, while allowing another group that's self-guided to do their work. And then City Year can work with those kids that are kind of on the cusp, needing that extra support. Sometimes you might see a pull-out situation where you would pull out one or a group of students to get more one-on-one and small group support. So City Year does a lot of those tutoring sessions as well, but it's always in tandem with what is needed from the teacher. The teacher and the core member work together. They'll check in once or twice a month outside of the classroom to plan and make sure they know what kids need that targeted support. During lunchtime, you might see some behavior support, some social emotional learning, mentoring sessions, just to check in with the students, help harness their skills into leadership skills in the classroom, find out what's going on at home, and just, being that shoulder and caring voice to advocate for them and be there for the kids. And then moving forward, we do a lot of after school programming. So homework help, academic enrichment. There's some schools that we serve that, City Year is able to provide the lion's share of the academic support after school for the programming there too. So that's a huge part of it. Then the teams what we do is a final circle up, debrief for the day, and get ready for the next day.
That's a long day first, a volunteer and a lot of hard work.
It's a long day. Yeah. I am just thoroughly impressed day in and day out with our young folks that are passionate about this work, and sign up for a year of service, because it is challenging. Working in a school is not easy. And our schools that we serve, are schools that we've been able to partner with the district to identify, teachers and schools that need the support from City Year. And so it's a challenging day, but it's also rewarding. And we love to be able to provide that energy of young folks for a year of service. And sometimes too, if they come back for a second year, which is also an option.
So we've got 33 AmeriCorps City Year folks in schools. Now, does the group get together, kind of share their own best practices, experiences, support for each other?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have around 30 right now. And so they do work in teams at the different, 6 schools. So right now they're about 4 to 5 per school. And so typically on a Friday, like every other Friday, we'll pull the City Year teams out, because it's really important for them to be able to, as you mentioned, share best practices, have reflection activities, do some things to fill their own cup, as they're working in schools. We also understand that, there's only so much that you can learn before going into a school about how to work with our kids and being a mentor and tutoring. And we do about a month-long training before they even get into the schools. But we have staff members that, do observations, former teacher coaches that are observing our core members to make sure that they can, improve their skills. And so a lot of what they observe then goes into the trainings on a Friday to continue to enhance their skills. So they're constantly improving, their impact and work in the classroom throughout the year.
And I bet they've got some great stories to tell.
Yeah. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about it, right? And I could talk about City Year all day, but I always tell folks, if we get the opportunity, come see it in action, come meet our City Year AmeriCorps members and hear their voice and their stories and see how they light up when they talk about the impact with their kids, and the work that they get to do. And, I'm just so grateful to see them. And it's amazing to have this type of program here in Kansas City, and especially with KCPS.
They get that month of training, they go out and they're doing their thing. It's been here for a while. do you follow your volunteers and what are they doing these days?
Yeah. So, it's a national program. So we have stats across the country, right, that show what our young folks do. And about 48%, show an interest in education. And so what's really interesting is that City Year is uniquely positioned where we actually find folks that if not for City Year, they would not have gone on to education. There are folks that join this and, maybe they don't know what the next step is, or maybe they do know, but then they do City Year, they fall in love with the classroom, and then now they want to be a teacher. And then some folks, they know they want to be a teacher, and that's why they did City Year. And so we're actually a major feeder to our school district, to other teacher programs, like Teach for America, things of that nature. And that's one of the benefits of our school partners is, we've been here, for a while, since 2015. So we now have City Year AmeriCorps members that used to be with City Year that are now teachers inside of the schools, some of the same schools that we're actually serving in. So you can imagine a City Year AmeriCorps member who was a mentor and tutor, fell in love, is now a teacher, and some of them even now have other City Year AmeriCorps members in their classroom. So it's creating a education talent pipeline, which we're really excited about. But they don't all go into education. Some go into law school and med school. Social work is another popular field that folks go into. But wherever you go, even if it's in the private sector, you're still taking these values and these things that you learned with you, and employers really appreciate that.
Well, I would think it has benefits in just overall job recruitment when an employer sees that you've spent a year, giving to the community, albeit you get a little bit of financial support, but you're really giving in the community to young people. What do you look for in your AmeriCorps folks? And you said there's 33, so we'll go to the next question after that is you need peeps.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So around 30 is where we're at right now. But yeah, so what we look for is, do they have prior experience, working with kids? And this could be experience as a tutor or a mentor, serving in a camp or other AmeriCorps program. Or maybe it's just leadership experience that they have with their own siblings, but at the end of the day, it's important for us to identify that this is a young person who's passionate about working with kids, because that's, primarily what we're doing. We also want to understand that they have an aptitude to understanding the values of diversity, belonging, inclusion, and equity. It's really important for our young folks to understand the connection between education, equity, and racial justice. We don't separate the two. We see them as a link. And, the fact that we are intentionally serving in systemically under-resourced communities, it's really important for them to understand their identities, how they show up, the history of our schools and our communities, so they can really make a difference, and be someone that's open to growing and learning on their own journey as they understand equity and their identity and things of that nature. City Year is very intentional in making sure that we're a diverse program. One, it's important that we have AmeriCorps members that are reflective of the communities that we serve. At the same time, it's important that we have people from all walks of life, because that's the beauty of this, is people showing up that come from different backgrounds, but are still united by a common cause. And so we look for people that can be passionate about, these aspects, as well as working with the youth and, working towards education equity.
You're recruiting all the time, it sounds like.
All the time.
So as you go forward with that, I would think that's maybe the biggest challenge you face.
Yes.
Is finding those recruits. So how do you go about that? It's a challenge, I would imagine.
Yeah. So, City Year is not exempt to some of the, struggles with recruiting. This is something that education nonprofits are struggling with across the board. Unfortunately, our own school partners, some are experiencing teacher shortages, and it's not just education, right? So there's a lot of things that City Year has done. We've worked with AmeriCorps to increase the living stipend. That's one thing that we've done. We've also been trying to partner with, folks on our board of directors and our sponsors to see if we could create housing partnerships for our City Year AmeriCorps members. That's not something that we have yet, but we do see that as a barrier to service because they're only on a living stipend. So those are other things that we're doing, as well as just really lean into how we can focus on their career development. So I mentioned that's something that we already do, but we want to continue to enhance those opportunities. So when a City AmeriCorps member does this, they know that they're getting valuable assets to prepare them for their next career step. But, we have recruiters that, have a heavy presence on the colleges and universities, especially in the Midwest. And then we have a position that focuses on that recruitment locally as well. And then just beyond schools and universities, other entities that are working with the youth, and can have a pipeline and get us out and about in the community. This is a community-based organization, so we have to be in the community to spread the word and let people know. And like I said, we want more young people, but the folks that we do have are doing amazing work, and that inspires us to know that we can get more.
So on a day-to-day basis, what are you doing as head of City Year here? Are you running around to schools as well?
I mean, when I can, yeah. I'm not above doing that, definitely. But things like this are important, right? So we prioritize opportunities to get our message out there because, City Year in some aspects can be, best kept secret, right? It's this very impactful program that people in the education sector know about, but we want to get beyond that, right? So I have the opportunity to work with some of our amazing partners that sponsor us, like the Kansas City Chiefs and the Kansas City Royals, Community America, Quick Trip. I see you repping the Royals and the Chiefs in the background. And they, have a platform which we can collaborate with to spread the word. So that's something that we do a lot. Anything that we can do right now in collaborating with other entities and organizations to promote City Year is something that I put a lot of effort towards. We have a program called #CYKC Perks, where we partner with entities to provide benefits exclusively for City Year Kansas City folks. Because it is one, 501c3, but a young person can decide between City Year Chicago, Miami, Denver, what have you.
Gotcha.
And so when I talk to partners, funding is a big aspect because we're a nonprofit. We need that to do our work. But when I talk to partners, it's like, well, can you provide discounts or unique experiences for our young people so the community sees that we support and appreciate their year of service, and they come here, serve here, fall in love with the program, feel supported, get access to unique and cool and discounted experiences, and then go on to tell their friends to serve as well. So that's a big factor of it too, is, making sure that our young folks are having the best possible experience when they're serving in our community.
We're talking with Jeff Shafer. He is the executive director of City Year Kansas City. Well, cool relationships, I know, with the Chiefs and the Royals. And I know particularly the Chiefs have been very supportive. I think it's been a kind of a pet project for Mark Donovan, who is, of course, the president of the Chiefs. He's really smitten in a positive way with the program. and that's got to help.
Yeah, I mean, Mark has been a huge support, and shout out to Ann Sharf as well with the Hunt Family Foundation. Right. Mark Donovan was our founding board chair, and he's no longer the chair, but he's still on the board. It's just recently we were doing a professional clothing drive for our AmeriCorps members because they do this year of service and they're in a uniform. And it's like, okay, the next career step, we want to make sure that they have, professional clothing, other things. And I get a phone call from Mark while I'm in the office. And I'm like, oh, it's Mark Donovan. And he just shows up with 2 bags of, blazers and button ups and everything just to donate to our young folks. So he's personally invested on that level, but then does a lot to open doors for us in our program as far as fundraising is concerned and other benefits that we can provide the program overall, which is a huge support. And then doing like collaborative activities, the Chiefs, bringing players to the schools or field trips. And we see that with the Kansas City Royals and other sponsors that we work with. Community America Credit Union has done wonders in providing unique opportunities to the students that we get to serve. So, not everyone can be Super Bowl winning football team, but other sponsors are still stepping up and, showing different careers and pathways that, our kids can undertake and supporting our City Year AmeriCorps members too.
How does an organization get to you to be a sponsor, to have volunteers, et cetera? How do we do that?
Yeah. Our information is on our website, cityyear.org/Kansas City. I also want to plug that for recruitment purposes as well. If people know young people that are interested in serving, or if you yourself are a young person that's interested. But reach out to me directly. Myself and my development team, we're always looking to collaborate and find ways to make a unique impact, right? And so whether that's through a fundraising opportunity or a field trip for the kids, we do have a variety of volunteer activities. The first day of school is always a big one where we invite sponsors and volunteers to help cheer on our kids with us. As I mentioned, that's something the City Year team does daily. We have our MLK Day a service, which happens every MLK Day, where we recruit volunteers to help with painting murals and other beautification projects in maybe a school that we serve or a community center. So that's another way to volunteer. And then just professional development for our young folks, right? This is a year of service before the career step. We're always looking for professionals to be mentors for them, and because maybe you're working in a field that they want to get into after City Year. Or even if not, you have some advice on how to navigate the professional realm. And so, these are 18 to 25-year-olds that are looking for that support. And, we love to match sponsors and volunteers up to help them as well.
All right. So there's no excuse for those of you who are watching and listening to this. You know where to go and you can help. You yourself went through this in Chicago, and a lived experience, and now you're running the organization here. What were you able to bring along from actually doing the work to now overseeing the work?
Yeah. So you're right. I mean, I'm a Kansas City kid, and I grew up going to Kansas City public schools, and that's a part of my story, my trajectory. I was very fortunate to graduate from Lincoln College Prep. Went to Chicago for college, and after college, it was 2009. During the recession, and no one was looking for a young kid with a marketing degree at that moment. But I was really passionate about education. And, I was hit with some harsh realities, in my own neighborhood and on my own block of other kids my age that didn't have the same opportunities as me, even though we grew up in the same neighborhood. I think a lot of that had to do with education and equity in the schools that, we got into and things of that nature. So education was passionate for me. And so I joined City Year, was one of the mentors and tutors on the south side of Chicago, fell in love with the program, transitioned to staff. And so to your question of what I bring to the program here in Kansas City, one, it's a passion and knowledge of the impact that this has. And so I was very fortunate to see this program have such an impact in Chicago and help bring it back to my hometown in the same school district I grew up in. I also saw the organization's ability to build connections with other, entities and companies and people that maybe have given up on the school district, right? Or maybe don't understand all of the adversities that our kids face. And if we can be that bridge for people to understand the reality of what's going on, but then also understand the potential of all of our students, and to be a liaison to the school district and our teachers and our students. I love playing that role. And I saw City Year do that in Chicago. And I was, able to do that with a lot of other folks in Kansas City and really build some positive momentum for our kids.
Well, we're lucky you came home.
Thank you. Yeah, I made my parents very happy. They're excited. The family was good to see me come back. And I love Kansas City, man. I mean, I left in 2005, came back in 2015, and I was like, yo, my city has, flipped a new coin. It's turned up. This is a beautiful place, and I love it. And obviously, 2015 was an exciting time with the Royals winning the World Series then. So we've been on the up and up ever since.
That's great. Well, I also wanted to talk a little bit. Not only do you run City Year, if that isn't enough, you serve on a board for an organization called Block. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, Block stands for Brothers Liberating Our Communities. And it's a nonprofit also focused with education equity, but with the focus on recruiting, retaining, and developing young Black men as educators. I mentioned that it's important for our City of AmeriCorps members to be reflective of the students that we serve. And the Block really identifies that, especially from a perspective of Black men. And the amount of Black boys that we have in our schools that might be struggling and need some extra support, and how they benefit when they see someone that looks like them. But then also the data shows that all students, regardless of their gender or race, benefit from having more Black men in the education sector. So shout out to, Cornell, who's holding down the Block as the executive director, and it's been a benefit to serve on that board and kind of help with their work as well.
So how do you balance that? I mean, let's talk reality. Here you are running a nonprofit, and then you sit on a board. What do you do? Never sleep?
I mean, actually, I wake up pretty early to make sure I can get ready for the day. But we were just talking about Mark Donovan, and I think about other, leaders in this education field and principals and teachers that are, putting their heart and soul into their jobs and their work, and then also doing other things in the community. And at the end of the day, you have to be passionate about this. You have to have a support system. I'm really fortunate to have that. And it's not easy, but if you're passionate about the work and you make sure to set aside time to fill your own cup, you can make this a sustainable job and living, and be able to, help out elsewhere. And there's other things that I even do outside of education. I'm also in a band, and I perform and I do music, and that's something that fills my cup too. So
go ahead, put in a little plug there. So people can catch out doing music.
Yeah. Well, my stage name is Flair the Rebel, and FLARETHA Rebel. But no, I mean, music has always been something I've been passionate about, ever since middle school, to be quite honest. It's hip hop at the core with a live band, cross genre to certain aspects. But it helps me have another platform of expression, and using hip hop and music, for a positive message, and, to have a good time at the same time, so, but that's been a part of my identity as well. And I appreciate moments to share that, because I want our young folks that serve at City Year to be able to be their authentic self when they're serving, and to show their own identity to the degree of which they want to. And I try to be an example of that. And as of recently, I've been, just leaning into merging both worlds when it comes to that. People sometimes know me in the education sector, they know me for music. And I think it's okay for me to just say that, this is me, this is both, this is everything. So.
Well, we know music can often be a universal language to cross barriers, whether you're both speaking English or, just the whole mix of things. It kind of it lowers those things and makes life a little bit easier. What would you say in leading this organization now that's, 9 years?
This is my
8 years.
Going on my
13th
or 14th year.
Involved overall, but in Kansas City.
Yeah, but in Kansas City since 2015, you're right. And then this position as executive director, this is only my 3rd year. But yes, to your question.
Wow. All right. So you've had your feet wet totally, but leading this only for 3 years, that's not really that long. What's your greatest challenge, and how do you try to face it leading the group?
I think, for me, when people that sit in the executive director role, I believe they understand this. It's balancing the external work with the internal work, right? Yeah. Like, you have to be a representative of City Year. I believe that it's important for me to be out and about in the community and make connections and build rapport with folks and do things that help us collaborate on a larger level to ultimately benefit what we're doing internally, to benefit our staff and our core and our work in schools. But then there's so much that you get pulled into internally, right? So it's like that balance of, not being able to be everywhere all at once, and, setting priorities. But, at the end of the day, it's like, you got to look after your people, right? And you got to make sure that you have a strong culture and that your staff feels supported, that your volunteers feel supported. And so showing up for them is a big part of what, we do as executive directors. But I think at the same time, it's having a really strong team that you can lean on, and other folks that can step in and other people that can give me feedback and tell me when I need to adjust and be honest with me, right? Because I'm not perfect in this work. And I strive to be the type of leader that can be very honest and vulnerable with people, because I think that makes us all better in the end.
It's Jeff Shafer, City Year in Kansas City. Check it out. Great organization, helping kiddos maximize with great support. Jeff, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ruth. I truly appreciate it. It's always good to get the message out and connect with other folks that are just passionate about our community.
Thank you for joining us on KC Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We're produced by Charitable Communications, also a nonprofit. KC Cares segment was brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation, www.kaufman.org. To be a guest on KC Cares, check out our website, kccaresonline.org, and spread the love. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at KC Cares Radio and Instagram at KC Cares Online. Don't forget, you can catch us on Saturday mornings on ESPN 1510 AM and 94.5 FM at 8 a.m. Thank you for joining us on Casey Cares.